Start off by saying thank you from the bottom of my heart for being my first interview guest. I'm starting this new, video series, and we'll see how it goes. But this is day number 1. This is first try, so I'm stoked that you're here, and thank you so much for that.
Oh, very, very happy to be on the show with you, brother.
Yeah. So as we talked a little bit before, this is centered around authentic living and authentic. What does it mean to be authentic? What is authenticity? And why don't we start off by just hearing any thoughts that come up for you on that topic?
So for me, talking about authenticity is living from your center. So there's all this stuff going around up and down in the mind and in the body, but living in your center, I feel like, is the most authentic version of yourself, and not conforming yourself to any particular belief patterns or anything imposed on yourself. So it's coming from yourself in a way that's your soul self. Like, that's how I perceive it, in a way that's connected to others. So what I look at as authenticity, I like to look at it like a puzzle, right? So it's sort of a double entendre play on words. Say, you're already the perfect piece in this universe, meaning both you're already having perfect peace on the inside just by living your authenticity, but also you already perfectly fit in naturally with the world around you, just like the animals in nature already perfectly fits in around you. So living authentically is just about naturally doing what comes to you and feels right to you. So it's, in a sense, just gravitating to whatever makes your soul feel right, intuition. So it's like all about being your full self, not dulling yourself down to fit into particular pieces of the puzzle that you're not meant to be fitting into. And by being your full expansive being and not dulling yourself down and not dulling the edges of your own greatness, then in that sense, you're living authentically because you're already in your peace. If you're doing what you love, you're doing what comes naturally to you, what gives you joy, and what feels right to you, you're already living the perfect peace. And that's something about authenticity. I was really hyped when you asked to partake in the interview, because I really wanted to share, like, that's bliss, is just being authentic. Wow. And that's it.
Dude, that's awesome. Getting in touch with the soul self. There's something deeper than what we often associate with who we are, is what I'm getting from you. I totally agree. And before we go any farther, that was awesome, by the way. I feel like we just went deeper than I ever expected. But tell me a little bit more about you. So what's going on in your life? And tell me about you.
So I would start off by saying that right now I'm living as that perfect inner peace right now. And it's like I'm in a position now where I can share my bliss. And that's what I'm working on, is sharing my bliss as much as possible, because I've attained it. And going back to where I've been from. So I've been from a place where I used to take on a lot of people's opinions, and I used to take on a lot of societal programming, as it is sort of pushed in our face from an early age in the media, and already established traditional norms that extend even prior to the media.
Right.
So I grew up in New York, which was an absolutely beautiful place to grow up, because it was competitive. First of all, meaning I had to speed up both my physical body to keep up with the world. I had to speed up my mental capacity in order to stay current with my studies and to be able to stand out in a very large population. But by far the most beautiful part about myself growing up, my experience, was that I was able to meet so many different types of people, so many different ethnicities of people, and just really showed me everybody's got their inner greatness, and every culture has their inner greatness, and every culture has their stuff that maybe you don't agree with, but it's... I grew up, my mom is from Forest Hills, which is the... Queens, New York is the most diverse borough in the entire planet.
Is that right?
So really learning about all the different cultures all around the world, and really taking in and absorbing all those different wisdoms and information in this sort of center. And on the flip side, it was a sort of harsh place to grow up in. There's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of eyes looking at you. So it was, in a sort of sense, I was kind of drifting away, only doing and being with groups of people that really helped me feel safe, because it was such a large populace of people that you learn to be careful and to be just wary of your surroundings. So it gave me that sort of street smarts.
Is it suspicious, or is it more just like acknowledging what people are doing around you? It's just awareness in general.
Definitely awareness in general.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's a teaching point. Anyone from a big city will tell you they have street smarts, but what does street smarts really mean? It's awareness and being able to read people. So that's a big blessing that has really helped me in what I'm journeying into now. It took me a long time to get to the point, but journeying into now with massage and meditation and the healing arts and Reiki and so on and so forth, Chinese medicine, with those modalities, being able to read people and the awareness factor of reading people for my own safety and for my own awareness has allowed me to be able to read people in order to help them and to heal them.
For the healing arts, your ability to read them is translating directly into that. Cool.
Exactly. And the biggest thing about how far I've come is that I did the whole what other people said is the way to success.
Okay.
And what did it do for me? Gave me experience and the reasoning to go down my own path.
Yeah.
I went to college for a year and a half. I got 3.8 GPA and Dean's List in paralegal studies, but I just saw myself going down
you'd make
that
a good
path.
lawyer, I think. Why didn't you go down that path?
I would, and that's why I didn't go down that path, because
I went down that path. Then I saw it'd be good for me. Or no, I thought I'd be good at it. And then I was like, I don't want to be good at anything. No, I'm just joking.
Exactly. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before about being in your peace. That's not my role.
Okay.
Could I have finagled my inner peace to conform myself to the legal environment? Yeah, and I would have made a lot of money, but look at where I am now. I told my parents I always traveled a lot when I was young because my mom was a flight attendant, and my mom really opened me up to the world, literally bringing me to all these different places like Tokyo and different places in the world that were really life-changing. And what it really opened me up to most of all is that sort of sense of finding your place in the world.
Yeah.
Because you can fit in anywhere, but you have to be authentic, like your whole program is talking about. And telling my parents from an early age that I was going to live in Maui when we visited. And my parents said, that's pretty funny. Like, it was like almost a joke at the time.
They didn't believe you, or maybe you're just a kid. And
And then when I said I was okay, I'm going to Maui and I'm gonna study massage, everybody's still like, oh yeah, Hawaii is expensive, and they like listed all the reasons why I couldn't. But then I just took the time and said, how can I? And so that was part of my authenticity, because this is the place I wanted to live. And this is the art I want to do, is helping people and getting into the healing arts. And that authenticity has really brought me to the point where just being my inner peace and being my piece of the puzzle, meeting friends like you, like Ryan and the roommates of this house, and just all these amazing different people, Sammy, just all these perfect people just clicking in perfectly, because all it took was a step in the right direction for myself. And it's like, everybody is gonna die. It's a thing that people like to push off, but it's like, so why not live your authenticity? Why not go adventure, and why not have a blast like they did in the old days, just gallivanting the countryside? and romanticizing all the beautiful women and journeying to the exotic lands. It's still there. It's just there's more imaginary lines, and there's more you have to do this to get approval, and the whole capitalism thing that you don't have to fit into. And if you love something, you'll really fit into it and succeed in it in whatever way it takes, because you're going to have continually that energy pushing forward.
Yeah.
Pushing you forward, like just like your yoga practice, and just like my practice of massage and meditation and the healing arts, and just being obsessed with anything ethereal and, and deep and Piscean in all the dream world. Energy, huh? And then all of a sudden people are like getting all this downloads because like I just find things in nature because I love nature, and that's part of the authenticity aspect is loving nature and learning so much from nature, like everything, because everything fits in, interlaces. It's the same programs, or trying to think of the word, same laws of nature that grows everything and disintegrates everything and grows everything again. So I take lessons like the trees, they're strong and sturdy, they're rooted, grounded into the ground, they're fruitful, they provide shade for other people. But one of the biggest lessons from trees I've learned is bending and not breaking. Okay. So that's a part of the way I keep in my authenticity and I keep in my inner peace. All right. Is because if someone is sort of testing your patience, right? Are you gonna snap and then you lost your inner peace? Or you could just sort of bend, sway in the breeze, bend back, and then all of a sudden you're still sturdy and strong and in your particular piece. And that's being authentic to me.
Totally. When you first said that, I was thinking about, the metaphor of a tree and bending as relating to the mind and the body, and how I was like, yeah, totally. Yoga as a practice has brought tremendous change in my own life, in my ability to handle and move and change with the circumstances at play. And I also like what you said about if something that you don't like is going on, are you going to snap? Mm-hmm. And that touches on an emotional trigger kind of thing. And that's, I hadn't thought of it that way, that the flexibility or the bendiness of the tree can also relate in a way to how you flow with your emotions. Because really anger, when you snap, it's like anger, right? So I guess the way I experience anger is it can kind of this thing that pops up at times, and it's like a trigger sometimes for me. And it's probably because it's a habit. I've done it so many times in my life energetically. There's this trigger that pops it up, and then you're saying how flexibility can allow for that trigger to be, bypassed, or talk more about that. I'd love to hear some more about that.
So I'll take the example of yoga, because yoga is just such a beautiful practice, and I love that it's blossoming on earth. Yeah. And so if you think about it, when you're conceived as a child, right? There's nothing but consciousness. You're just mind, or you're just soul. Right. You're an experiential little blip in the joining of two energies from the male and female. So as you grow, you're essentially growing out from mind or consciousness. So that's why yoga has always produced the sages, whether it's the old sages of the yogi variety in the mountains of India or the Himalayas or whatever, or the modern day yogis like yourself or Sami Sariani, who are just appearing to be these young, happy, naive individuals.
I prefer the word innocent. Thank you.
From the outside sources, from people who aren't as open.
Yeah.
But if you sit and talk to you or Sammy, you'd get the same or greater information as if you journeyed all the way to India, hiked all the way up the mountain, and got that flexible yogic wisdom. And so going back to flexibility aspect of yoga, that's why it's such a powerful practice, and why it consistently brings wisdom out in people, because it's all about that bending. It's all about being able to bend your mind and wavelengths and time space and get really trippy with it and start to associate when you're in meditation or when you're in your everyday life meditation practice, keeping your peace when something's about to knock you off your balance, and it has in the past, you can get that flexibility and go back to your practice. And now that your body as an extension of the mind is flexible, you can become like that tree essentially in the wind where someone's sending a hurricane your way and you're the only tree standing because you did 2,000 asanas in a month period, and you have the ability to say, oh, like in the past, I would just snap and get angry like you were saying.
Yeah.
But you can totally relate now to in your yoga practice.
Yeah.
Now when something in the past that would have got you agitated occurs, you're flexible enough to, whether you subconsciously go back to your yoga practice and you're thinking about that one time where you were really frustrated in this one pose, or you almost hurt yourself or something, it relates back allegorically to, okay, now I'm flexible, and even though that person's being a perceived doofus or really getting on your nerves, you can find that flexibility in your body as an extension of the mind to say, okay, can I see myself through their eyes? Can I see the oneness in every single being on this planet, whether it's a human, animal, tree, your enemy, your best friend, or even a rock that stubs your toe?
It's like the bowl of consciousness that exists in everything, and it's just like holding it. And then what they're doing can be completely insane on the outside, but can you see through to that chalice, that cup that's holding the consciousness within them?
Absolutely, I like that. And that goes back to something my kumu Gina Nalawai taught me. She's the Lomi Lomi instructor, founder, and Hawaiian goddess of Ho'omana Spa.
And that's a type of massage, right?
Yes. Lomi Lomi is a type of massage I practice, learned from Gina Nalawai, who I have just the most respect for. It's just like, I could go on a whole tangent about how much I love her. But
Great.
So she told us this story about having a bowl, and it's an ancient Hawaiian allegorical story of having a bowl of basically your soul. And I'm obviously not reiterating the story exactly as she told it, but she was talking about how your bowl can start to fill up with little rocks. Little rocks of stuff you're holding on to, little rocks of different experience you've had. But if you want to have the most water, most aloha, most love to share with the world, that bowl's got to be clear. So that takes intention to reach your hand in, throw out those certain experiences, maybe put them on a shelf and say, oh, I love that experience. But good or bad experience, you got to keep that bowl, like you're saying, that vessel clean. And then you can bring more of what you're looking to bring, whatever you're looking to bring, more of it.
And I imagine the massage technique is an intention of doing just that, is it?
Oh yeah, it's like one of my teachers considered massage therapy as, she said, the green beret of the healing arts. Because a doctor will give you a prescription and then leave you the heck alone, and then you won't see him for another 2 weeks. A massage therapist is going in, touching your body, touching your emotions, touching your spiritual energy. So it's very... Especially if you go into
you in a way.
Yeah, it's sort of
energetically.
I like to look at it as, say, Asclepius. He's considered the son of Apollo, the father of Hippocratic medicine in ancient Greece. He was considered a god of healing, and he's one of the oldest records of having any sort of depiction of massage. The furthest, I believe, is Egypt. An Egyptian hieroglyph. But I look at it in that Greek sense, that you're sort of molding this already perfect body. So say they have some sort of structural imbalance, like you've seen in yoga millions of times, and you analyze in your everyday life, like I do as you walk down the street. I look at it as molding the person into the best person they could be. And it's not in a way that's, oh, I'm here to fix you, because that'll get you going in the other direction of healing. It's more of healing as an effort to help the person become whole. If the person has really deep problems that they're looking to fix emotionally, maybe not go so much into and try to fix them, but really just give them exactly what they need for their body to heal itself, because the body is the perfect restructuring, regenerating mechanism
it's fueled
of life.
by the life force energy, the prana, the chi, the whatever we want to call it, and that's the healing, energy right there, isn't it? Somehow that is acting through our DNA and all these other, elements that coalesce into this physical form. So I'm so resonating with that, totally.
Yes, exactly, and that's how these practices, whatever practice you do, but in this particular situation we're talking about our particular practices.
Yes.
So meditation, massage, Reiki, and yoga all bring you to a space, if you do it, maybe not the word correctly, but if you do it mindfully and being in your best heart presence for that particular person.
How about we say skillfully?
Skillfully.
Because it is something that you develop with practice, and at first it's a little blunt and you're not quite sure what it is, and with practice you learn what has the effect you want, more or less. It's a skill, I think. Skillfully,
definitely a good way of putting it. So
yeah,
it gets you, these practices really get you to a place of authenticity, because you have to be fully there and present authentically for your client, or else they're not coming back. If you're teaching yoga and you're bringing baggage, clients aren't coming to pick up the baggage. They're coming to see your authentic teaching.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, what I've experienced with massage and meditation is in my own practice, in my own business now, is how can I be most present and authentic for them? Because that's where you're really getting them to. That's what the experience is getting them back to. Everybody's pretty much good, barring any sort of profound karma, which is you're either in the shallow end of the swimming pool or in the deep end of the swimming pool with that one.
Yeah,
but it's just being present in like that sort of childish innocence and that like authenticity. Because if you want to learn about authenticity, the number one practice I'd recommend is remembering who you were as a kid.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, you don't care what anyone thinks.
That's right.
You'll scream, you'll laugh, you'll call someone whatever you call them.
Sure.
It's just your authenticity comes right out. So that's what I go back to if I ever feel like I'm kind of wavering from who I really am. I go back to, what was I like as a little kid? And I was like, oh, I wanted to be a superhero. I wanted to do all this really cool adventures.
Totally.
And in my eyes, that's what I'm doing right now. And that's my path. That's what I consider to be my authenticity. But getting out there every day and contributing what I can in terms of wisdom, in terms of healing arts, whatever I could do, and especially the adventure part is getting to the talk about superheroes is, I think that's kind of like one of the worst things in regards to authenticity a parent can say to their kid is that you can't be a superhero or you're not in superhero mode. That's only for movies. But in reality, you want to be an action hero.
Totally.
You want to be an adventurer. You could go do that. You might have to save up,
right,
grind out some money to go travel, make that Euro trip adventure, but you could do it.
Definitely.
It's not like it's not available. It's totally available. And you could go do any type of adventure you want. And ironically, superhero is like the number one position in need on this planet right now. If you talk about job security, could use some serious eco superheroes, consciousness superheroes.
Yeah, man.
In this world. So I say tell your kids they're a superhero.
Cool.
Tell your friends they're a superhero. Just whatever you feel, whatever you see, whatever your perspective is, just share it, and people either vibe with it or not. But when you're being authentic,
Right.
you'll get the people who are resonating with the same path you are, or similar paths, or some things,
Yeah.
or maybe just resonate for no reason at all, but you still resonate.
Yeah.
So
It's some kind of point of attraction, isn't it? All right, so I'm really stoked about what you're doing, and I'd love to hear more about this history, because you started out as this New York kid. You grew up in one of the most diverse areas of the world, it sounds like, and that was amazing for you, because you learned a lot of things like being street smart and how to read people's energy and all that. I'm wondering, how did this person transition into the healing arts, doing Reiki, yoga, meditation, and how did this happen for you? Massage, I mean, tell me.
it's really interesting because there's a whole lot, honestly, growing up in New York that wasn't me. Like, I was listening to gangster rap, and I was listening to...
You are quite a gangster. Don't try to pretend.
Ethereal rebel.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they're just supposed to keep that quiet, but okay.
Uh-oh.
That's cat's out
Spoiler
of the
alert.
bag. But, yeah. So yeah, it was like really, honestly, just becoming myself again. Because there's a whole lot of programming, whether it be listening to violent music, whether it be listening to even the opinions of childhood friends and family and bullies and all that stuff, it gets programmed into you. And so as a kid, I was always into the ethereal. I was always into taking a nap and just going into some really deep meditative space and creating worlds in my own imagination.
Yeah.
Writing creative stories and reading. I used to eat up books like they were nothing. I remember one day my mom got me a bunch of books for Christmas when I was like 2 or 3 and reading at the time. And I just unloaded all the books right on my bed, and she said, "Oh, which one do you want to read tonight?" I said, "All of them." At 2, 3 years old.
Dude.
So I was always this sort of nerdy, ethereal person, and going through schooling, trying to fit in, like I was saying before, dulling the edges of my piece to the universal puzzle, trying to fit in. As a kid, I was always that meditative, sort of ethereal, out there space cadet, and I got all this programming saying, "What are you doing that doesn't fit in with that's too far out there? There's reading isn't cool," or whatever. And then so it goes into...
you watch TV, man?
Yeah, it goes into like TV was considered cool, but I always loved reading.
Yeah.
And then the unfortunate thing that happens with American schooling is there's books that are really depressing that they have you read. And part of my unlearning process, along with unlearning violent music and unlearning programming from others, was unlearning that reading is not some chore, and writing is not some chore. Writing is one of my major creative outlets, and one of my major favorite hobbies is reading and writing. But then they have you read such Orwellian...
The Catcher in the Rye came
Catcher
to
in
mind
the Rye is
when you
exactly
said that.
the book I was thinking. That's just... Don't give that to people. Like, don't put that in people's minds. It's like the book that the guy that killed John Lennon was holding.
And there's this...
And they're having it in the school system. Yeah. But anyways, pushing that all aside, because that's just complainatory nonsense that's still healing. But just coming... It was kind of like one of my favorite books, The Hobbit. They have the There and Back Again was the original name of the story, and it was like when I was a kid, I was that out there, spaced out kid, and I remember at an early age I had to lower down my vocabulary to help people understand, and now I just fit in with people who can actually understand my vocabulary, however big, small, medium, it may be. But it was a lot of unprogramming. A lot of unprogramming from
Yeah.
television, which I just say turn off the television because commercials, hypnotic. It's based on consumerism and it's based on non-authenticity.
Sure.
Anything trying to sell you makeup, clothes, anything trying to sell you anything that's providing a quote-unquote coolness is just an illusion. It's going from the listening to lots of violent gangster rap music or
Sure.
darker type music. I started asking myself, what am I really into listening to?
Yeah.
And a lot of it, interestingly, is stuff that's more meditative, more traditional music, stuff that's groovy, but it's always got to have a good message, in my personal opinion. And a big authenticity point that I'd love to hit right here in this interview is I've always loved female vocals. And so as a little toddler, I'd be singing the Disney songs or whatever, and then it was, oh, quiet, that's a girl song. Oh, don't listen to that, that's a girl song.
Gender roles.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so flipped backwards because
Sure.
authentically, what are you going to tell your girlfriend? Oh, I don't listen to female vocals? It's so distorted.
Put
and
Beyonce away, my dear.
it's like getting back into like, okay, I could blast some Sade or something
Okay.
in my car and like be cool with it because that's authentically, I appreciate a goddessly voice.
Yeah.
And it's some of the deprogramming you have to do to get back to your authenticity because if you think about it, listening to men sing all day, like listening to men serenade you on the radio is like that's more strange than being like, oh, I love some female vocals. And it's sort of like this weird American programming I've traveled a lot and it's not anywhere else in the world. There's no gender this or that when it comes to music, but authentically you gotta vibe with the vibe of this music and you gotta vibe with the message because if you don't vibe with the message, that's part of what you're eating.
Right.
Same thing with TV programming your mind because your subconscious and your conscious mind is what's creating your feelings and actions.
Right.
And in regards to what you're seeing and hearing, that's also part of your digestion. And as you know, the sacral chakra is the form of digestion. And so people just think food, oh, I gotta eat healthy. But you gotta see healthy, you gotta hear healthy, you gotta speak healthy in order to live your life to the most authentic and most beneficial life for you.
That really relates a lot to the principle in yoga philosophy, the niyama of saucha, purity. And it's purity in a lot of ways. It's not just purity in, I don't know, your room, how tidy you keep things, or how nicely you comb your hair or something. It's purity of thought, of mind, of emotion, and everything. And I think this relates a lot to what you're saying because there's this energy of what we take in with our food and what we consume physically, and then there's all the other senses that are consuming all the time. So, and that, I really would like to talk more about the authenticity aspect and what you're talking about with mass culture, media especially, and some of the ways that, say, advertising is feeding a non-authentic reality for people. And I guess the question that comes up for me is, if someone is at this moment in their lives really into, we'll just use gangster rap because you were into that before as an example. If I'm just really into gangster rap, if I'm really into something that's like violent in that sense, if that's my reality at this time, why is it not authentic for me to pursue that? Can you go into a little bit of why you think there's, what's the difference between being authentic and following whatever you feel you're drawn to at this moment?
I would say, it's perfectly authentic for some people.
Okay.
But for I believe the great majority of people that listen to it are listening to it as a mode of anger release. It's, for me, I was angry teenager about all the all the stuff a teenager can be angry about.
I
that
went
was
the punk route way.
Exactly.
Punk rock way.
Punk rock I loved.
Angry
and it's just
still.
like, yeah, if that's the lifestyle you're trying to live, if you're trying to go out and do all the things they're talking about in the music, go for it. That's you. Be free. Be you.
Gotcha.
Freedom doesn't have to be good. Freedom is sometimes evil, but it's still free, and that's the beautiful part. Nature, when a lion goes and mauls a zebra, you can consider that evil, but it's natural, and the lion's sure as hell more free than you and me. And the same thing as a gazelle grazing on grass or something. It's free and it's peaceful. Free food. Totally. Free ranging wilderness. So it's the same thing in regards to music. It's just not my personal path. And it was something that I was listening to in order to fit in with what other people were listening to.
Gotcha.
Which relates back to what people are programming into their mind.
Totally.
So
it's like this collective ignorance about the basic nature of the law of attraction. It's like what we focus on, what we give energy to is what grows. I mean, look at the election a couple years ago, Donald Trump. There's so much vitriolic, negative, media, like people just really, no, we don't want Trump, but they're feeding energy to Trump. Yeah. The more they talk about Trump, of course he's going to get elected, right?
Exactly, and that's science. That's not just two hippies talking about quantum mechanics. It's you put energy towards something, whether it's a fire, whether it's wind over water, it's gonna fuel it. Yeah. So it's the same thing, and I'm so glad you brought up Trump, because I'm gonna be on the record for saying I of course don't agree with what he's doing, but I love that it's happening because everybody's seeing it and he's being authentically a jerk.
He is.
But it's authentic.
He's an authentic person, I would say.
He's entirely being authentic to himself because he's a sleazy businessman from New York.
And which you would know about.
And I know plenty about him. And I'm so glad that he's out there and that people are seeing this, because it's forcing everybody to look in the mirror. Because he is the American dream, the trophy wife, the mansions, the jet, the big tower in New York City. People are seeing it and getting angry because they're seeing themselves. They're seeing what they're striving for, the emptiness, the hollow materialness. And don't get me wrong, I love luxury. Give me $1 billion, I'll live in luxury and give half of it to charity. But on the other hand, it's the perfect authenticity in regards to what's been happening. It's been AmeriCorp for a while now. Yeah. And now that people are like, oh my gosh, a businessman celebrities in office. What about the Bushes? The Bushes were oil.
That's right.
G's, but they were not authentic. They were evil, just as racist, evil, conniving, rich, wealthy. All those things were mixed in. Same type of people, same mold of people, but they weren't authentic. And that's the beauty about what's happening in the world today, is because everybody's looking at themselves in the mirror. And everybody's seeing themselves in the mirror of each other. I think about it this way, and we'll shift the talk away from something where people will get angry about looking at the mirror that they don't want to see, the mirror on the wall, why is Trump staring at me and showing me all my faults. But something I think about is, before we had mirrors, right? So we're just European hippies, African tribalists, Native American tribalists, South American shamans, Eastern Asian warriors. Before we had mirrors, where did you see yourself? Right? The only place you saw yourself was water and other people's eyes. Unless you found some reflective material in a cave or something, you're only seeing yourself in water and each other's eyes. So I think that's something we've disconnected from is authenticity, because you look someone straight in the eyes, you'll figure out everything you need to know about them in a matter of 5 seconds if you're listening.
Sure.
Listening with all your senses.
Yes.
So when you see the reflection of other people, and in the past you had to either look in water, which is water is the element related to consciousness. Water is the element closest to us in nature, where like some ridiculous amount of percentage
70,
overwhelming salt water.
Yep.
So in the past you had to look into yourself.
Yeah.
And you had to see yourself and others, because you literally had to physically look into somebody's eyes.
That's awesome.
Or the waters of the ocean or a river or a pond or whatever form of water. You had to look at yourself to see yourself. And it wasn't this disconnect where you look up every morning, seeing yourself in the mirror, doing your hair, whatever.
Sure.
That wasn't existent until whenever they made mirrors. So
I'm
that's
inspired
something
right now to mess up my hair, because I used to be a hairdresser and I stopped styling my hair for 3 years and grew dreadlocks, and then I let it grow back, and now I just feel like I should have messy hair again.
And I'm going to keep my hair perfectly feng shui, because that's who I am, and I get agitated when little things are out of place, probably because there's a little bit of OCD in there, but that's who I am.
OCD.
There's Oracle Owen and there's OCD Owen, so
there
I
you
mean,
go.
whichever way you want to go with it. So I mean, going back to authenticity relating to reflectivity is what we're seeing more than ever in this world, where we have so many connections in the world, where you could literally go look at your phone, look at the computer, and contact anyone on the planet. You could brainstorm with anyone on the planet. More and more we're seeing it's all the same wisdom, all the same consciousness, just different perspectives.
Right.
So in India they were doing yoga to reach enlightenment, and in China they were using Taoist Qigong and Kung Fu to reach enlightenment.
Yeah.
And in South America, they were shamans. In Native America, they were shamans. And in Africa, there's shamans and dancing better than anybody on the planet. That's my opinion. But
nice.
All different forms of reaching this sort of state of authenticity, which is enlightenment, in my opinion, is just being in the light you're meant to be in. So in my perspective, authenticity is the truest form of enlightenment, because you're just being in your own inner soul light in whatever way it chooses to shine.
Yeah.
So someone could be completely considered corrupt, but they're performing their life, their dharma, their soul purpose exactly as they planned coming into physical reality. That's enlightened, because they're just in their peace. They're in whatever is right to them. And the same aspect, you become a legendary hero or revolutionary. That's being enlightened. Someone, to me, like Martin Luther King, enlightened because he went in and just fulfilled his calling, fulfilled his purpose. And you can access that through spirituality, like he particularly did, or you could also access it scientifically, like my good brother Einstein was just, his calling was science.
Yeah, totally.
And you could see all the profound effects of him just being in that particular spotlight or soul light he was meant to be in.
Absolutely.
It's all about your calling.
Totally. So when you found your way into these modalities, it was about kind of going away from some of the things that you'd taken on, conditional things that were around you in your culture where you grew up, and it just didn't feel right. But there was something that happened, wasn't there? There was kind of like a unique event for you, and we can edit it out if you don't want me to include it, but I'm wondering if you'd be willing to go into
absolutely.
That experience.
I nearly lost my marbles in college because I saw exactly everything wrong with what emotional baggage or philosophical baggage I had taken on in my life. I was raised in a Christian family.
Okay.
So all of that baggage, then going to Catholic college, it started to add up, especially when I was taking deep philosophical classes, reading deep philosophical and metaphysical books. It just wasn't lining up. It was, on one hand, there's this deep, ethereal, expansive little kid still inside me saying, where's the magic? Why is magic considered bad? Why is people's opinions outside of one particular conformed religion bad? Right. Even though, particularly at that time, I was considering myself Christian.
Okay.
So, along with that and the compiling of the subconscious programming from the darker music I was listening to, it just all piled up, and then it just kind of clicked in sort of a dark night of the soul of seeing where I was going, not being authentic. So seeing a future dream of myself being really wealthy, but doing something I wasn't loving.
Yeah.
It was down the path of legality, down the path of becoming a lawyer and working my butt off for somebody else. And there was money there, so you could call it what you want, but it wasn't happiness. Yeah. And it wasn't authentic, that's for sure. So I hit this point in my life where I was just like, all this baggage really weighing me down. All this talk from parents saying you have to do this, media saying you have to do that, traditionalism saying you have to do this, religion saying you have to do that. You keep taking that on, it's going to weigh anybody down. I don't care if you're Atlas, I don't care if you're Zeus, I don't care if you're the most mystical, powerful being in the planet. That emotional baggage will weigh anyone down.
Yeah.
So it took hitting rock bottom for me just to propel me upwards.
Yeah.
I like to consider it an emotional roller coaster. So people consider that bottom of the vibe or the bottom of the emotion to be this dark place. And I guess in a sense it is, but that's what's propelling you up. And that's what I've noticed, because ever since that moment where I was just in this disintegration of everything that was given to me, handed to me, pushed on me, it propelled me forward, because it got me to the point of like, what brings me happiness? What really am I all about? What did I believe when I was a kid? And it got me back to that expansiveness, rather than being conformed into this little box of what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to think. I blew the whole thing open and just, what am I looking for in my personal journey on this planet? What am I here to do? And it gets you in this space of, who am I? What am I here for? And that's all the questions you should be asking, is getting into the authenticity of, if I died tomorrow, will I be happy with the path I was taking?
Right.
Will I be happy with the choices I made, how I treated people? Yeah. And that's why I always go back to what Buddhists say is the archetype of Maitreya, loving kindness. Because whenever you pass on, you're going to look down upon yourself retrospectively and say, I was so happy that I made that person happy. And that's what's going to matter. Not how much money you made, not the status of people, the crowd seeing you.
Yeah.
How happy did you make people?
Yeah.
Because your mind doesn't recognize who's getting happy when you make somebody happy. You're just happy to see somebody happy, because that's how we evolve and how we grow. So to sum it up in my long tangent explanations, I did hit that dark night of the soul, and I say it's the best thing that ever happened to me, was completely falling flat on my face, dropping out of college, saying, I'm done with this, I'm going to do what I want.
Nice.
And now I got my own business, I'm teaching meditation, I'm living in Hawaii, my dream location.
Yeah.
I'm performing massage therapy. Every time you get someone's smiling, relaxed face afterwards.
Yeah.
And
that's
now,
the benefit of
anytime
by itself, huh?
Anytime someone gives me or tries to give me emotional baggage, I put my hand up. Metaphysically, I don't put my hand up in their face because that would be rude. I picture myself Okay? Not taking that on.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
people do that. People, like we were saying before, have trouble looking at themselves in the mirror, have trouble looking at what they're doing and sort of try to dump it off onto people who are more in a better space because they're like subconsciously thinking, oh, they can handle it, I guess.
Sure.
But what you allow will continue to happen. So I take every moment
Yeah.
as an opportunity to make others happier, make myself feel in a place where I'm going down the right path,
Yeah.
whether it has tangible results or not.
Yeah.
Just being on that curving path to that ultimate destination of just living a full life, living back and looking back from after all said and done, when you're up in heaven looking down and saying, wow, I really am glad I lived. I've already lived a life worth living. So that's authentic to me, is having those adventures, having those experiences, those employments, those friendships, those relationships,
Yeah.
all about contentment.
Mm-hmm.
When I met Ram Dass recently, I went with my teacher of Chinese medicine to see Ram Dass. I was actually going to ask him, what was it like being old? But I said, that's not what I want to ask him. I wanted to ask him, what is it like living in this wonderful place? I was talking about his house because he has a really nice house that a bunch of beautiful people, I wanted to say hippies, but I'm one of them, coming in and out, and I think that word has stigma to it. But he said, you know what, I've traveled the world, I've been to a lot of places, but here I feel content. Here I really feel content. And that's what it's about to me. It's about having a storybook that you're writing worth living.
Nice.
Going back retrospectively when you're 80 years old and being like, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I took that adventure. I'm so glad I went with that girl to go adventure to Europe. I'm so glad I went on that adventure to the Himalayas to do yoga. Whatever it is, these are just biased perspectives for me, but it's writing your story of what really feels like, wow, I lived. And I didn't just sit around and say, oh, I'm going to push pencils for some company, help someone else's dream come true. Live your dream. That's, in my eyes, get into the...
What else can we do, huh? Can't define a better life than that, living your dream. Dude, that's so awesome, Owen. Thank you so much. What's a way that people can get in touch with you and find out more about what you're up to?
So, you can always check me out on Instagram, Oracle Owen.
Oracle Owen?
Oracle Owen, because you could ask me any question.
Nice.
I'll take a time out of my day to help you out. I got a lot of wisdom in this 23-year-old mind, body, soul matrix experience. Brilliant. So, at Oracle Owen, ORACLEOWEN.
Awesome.
You could also reach me via email, which is available on my Instagram, or it's just Owen Muller.
And we'll put the email in the show notes as well.
Excellent. So just Owen Muller, 777s.
Cool.
at gmail.com.
Nice.
And other than that, just find me walking around, adventuring somewhere.
Out in the earth. Out in the world.
If you contact me in the astral plane while I'm dreaming, you better have something good to say or something happy to bring, because that's my dream time. I'm a Pisces.
Cool.
So if you want to contact me on the astral telepathic phone, all for that too, but
awesome.
Make it something worthwhile.
Cool. Well, here we are. It's been a good interview so far. This is number one. So that's about all I have to say. I don't even have a name for this show yet, so I'm just going to call it Awesomely Authentic Time with Winston Moon. And that's me, Winston Moon. Here we have Owen, and everything he just said is going to be in the show notes below this. So check out Owen if you've got curiosity in your consciousness to learn more about all of that.